Hi, my name is Thomas Johnson, and I'm the founder and CEO of GetUpNGetFit Wellness Coaching Concierge. I'm also a C-suite advisor and investor. And you're listening to the How May I Serve You podcast, where I'm constantly on the quest to surround myself with the best coaches while learning how to better serve our executive clientele by asking them, How may I serve you? Today's show is sponsored by GetUpNGetFit. And GetUpNGetFit will be providing students with textbooks and school supplies in Cambodia in honor of our guest today, as well as our philanthropic mission to impact at least 50,000 people per year. And today's guest is Bernadette McBurnie. Bernadette, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much, Thomas, for having me here today. It's a
Oh,
privilege and an honor, really.
you're very welcome. I'm looking forward to this interview because I love your energy. You're very luminescent, right? You have a lot positive about you. So following a thriving career from software developer to corporate executive in France, Hong Kong, Japan, Canada, and the United States, Bernadette developed a strong passion and commitment for leadership, women's empowerment, inclusion, and belonging. She now works with small and large organizations to empower women leaders to get their voice heard, influence decisions, and drive strategy to embrace diversity of thinking and behaviors of the individuals, leaders, and team to increase growth and build high performance teams. Bernadette, that's amazing right there. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. As I'm listening to you, it feels great, but it's very humbling at the same time because it talks about the journey that I've had, and truly, I believe that everything that I do is just the compilation and the compounding effect of all the experience that I've had over the last so many years. And
That's
and
right.
as you said, I lived in 5 countries, 3 continents, so I have a very broad range of
Yes. So you know what?
experiences.
Let's talk about that because you basically been on almost every continent besides Africa, right?
Yeah.
You've been Europe, you've been Asia, you've been in Canada, the United States, etc. So um let's talk about your experience from you being in France, then being in Hong Kong, Japan, Canada. When you were going from those places, what change about you? Because I know when you go through various experiences, you come out as a different person, right? You
Mhm.
become a different person through
Yeah.
osmosis. So talk to me about that.
It's really interesting what you're saying because is I'm Asian by cultural background, but I was born and raised in France, and as you said, I moved quite a bit, and I lived and worked in different countries, different cultures, and you're absolutely right. It really has shaped who I am today, and it really has expanded my mind and my understanding of what the world is about, and also creating a lot of desire to just to bring us all together. I've always, when people ask me where are you from, and in a nutshell what I say to people, to give you really the short line is, I've always seen myself as a citizen of the world. And I
Mm,
mean that not only from a cultural background, but from an economical background, everything. We look different, we speak differently, but we're all the same. And that's what I loved about my experience. It really has brought in front of me all the things that we're striving for, and I really believe that we're all striving for the same thing, meaning we strive to be the best of who we can be. you
mhm.
know we want a great life, we want to serve, we want to make a difference, we want to do all of that. We have our own struggles, there's no doubt about it. But as a human being, we really are going in the same direction. And when we understand and embrace that, it's just amazing of what we're capable of doing, because it's all about, which is why I grew and became a very, very passionate and very committed to diversity and inclusion,
Mhm.
and in a broad sense, because I lived the opposite. in with all the challenges that means, and but I also did all I could to bring that into the workplace, into the community place.
That's amazing right there. You know what? So going through various obstacles and experiences, it equips us to become better, right? And it's up to us to share those lessons with the world, and that's what you're doing right now. You-
Yeah.
Through your experience, through everything you've gathered, right? All the obstacles, the heartaches, right? The hurdles, you've been able to learn from that. It didn't break you. It did not break you.
You're absolutely right. It did not break. Actually, it gave me, I had my downs, and trust me, there were times I really was down, and I was thinking, why is this happening to me? Why there is no reason. Why do we do this to each other? I mean, and but at the same time, it gave me more power and more energy, because it gave me more drive to change. It gave me more drive to really question status quo, more drive to change paradigms, and as I do believe, and I know you absolutely feel the same. It's all about our mind. What is the game that we're playing with our mind? And I'm a firm believer that I have the power to shape my life and my success. It's in me. Yes, circumstances will influence and will create all of that. But at the same time, and how many times do we hear, it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you? And I know we've heard that hundreds of times, all of us, right? But my gosh, it is true. It is absolutely true. I remember years ago, I was in a training, and one person said to me, Bernadette, it seems like we've had exactly the same journey, as a young adult. I said, yeah. And she said to me, how come you are creating what you're creating, and I'm totally at the opposite? And it was so obvious. And I said to her, because I made different choices.
There you go. It's funny because I love stories, right? I love stories, and I love, especially stories about the hero's journey. But I also like to dive into stories about the not only the hero but also the villain, right? Because oftentimes they will go through the same obstacles, right? The same struggles, the same heartaches and headaches, but depending on the decision of the person, that's what determines what direction they'll go. Either they end up becoming a villain or the hero, depending on their decision, right? Their choice.
Exactly.
You're right. So Bernadette, I want to dive a little bit more further back, right? Because I like to learn about people's childhood and how their childhood influenced them to be the person they are today. So you mentioned you grew up in France, right? As a little Asian girl in France, right? Talk to me about your experiences in your development. What did you go through being in another country?
How much time do we have, Thomas? It's such a great question, Thomas, because you're absolutely right. That we are conditioned right there, when we're a child, right from that beginning, very young age. It was challenging, because it was at a time my parents were there. We were not supposed to stay in France. They were supposed to go back to Vietnam, where we are from. But for a number of political reasons and the war reasons, we just decided to stay in France. It was a time where there was a lot of cultural issues, let's put it that way, and to be quote politically correct, and it was extremely challenging to live in a place where there was not necessarily acceptance, to say the least. And I felt that from a very, very young age, to the point, I was submitted to a lot of bullying, emotional, verbally, number of different things. And I'm far from being the only one. I know that. But that definitely just, and because I'm also a very deep introvert, even though people may not see it right now, but I'm a very deep introvert and private person. So I withdrew even more. And that also had a lot of implication as I grew up, as a teenager, as a young adult, in my career, in my profession, because it actually played against me, because I was not willing to show myself, just to protect myself.
Okay.
Because I thought if people don't see me, then I won't be hurt. In a way, that was it. And I know that has also shaped part of who I am, and one of the reasons why I do what I do.
Okay. So upon recognizing that, right, what made you decide to work on developing yourself even more, right? Because as a coach now, right,
Mhm.
oftentimes coaches tend to dive into personal development before they really go down the coaching path. So
Mhm.
what was the start of your personal development journey?
I think it started when I was very young, as a young child and teenager, but not knowing that's what I was doing, I'll be honest
Okay.
with you. But I've always believed since I was very young that when we build people up, magic happens. I've always believed that. And I've always said, and the sooner we do it, the better it is, because it will have ripple effects on not only the person, but everybody around them. And imagine if we were building each other up instead of taking each other down. I mean,
Powerful.
what, my gosh, where would we be? Right? It's all about that mindset of abundance of life, of talents. So I've always believed that. So I also knew that it was true for me.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what I did when I was at school and studying, and I know is I did always the best to how can I become the best of me, not to be best than someone else, but the best of me.
Mm.
Because the better I am, the better I will be of service to others, the better I will be of an example, the better I will be all around, frankly. And so that has always been the way that I've thought, but it had become more and more obvious as I went into my career
Okay.
because I led teams and I saw talents. I saw some people, and they were not given the opportunity to shine. And
Mm.
that would to me was no, we need to shine. We need to help
Right.
them shine.
There you go. There you go. You know, this is what I love stories because everything you went through, you were able to go back in retrospect and extract the lessons and through you being fully invested, you were able to see other people that were hiding, right?
Mhm.
Other people that had similar experiences, but they were afraid to speak out. And you saw these people, right? Because you recognize yourself in these people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So this is what makes you one of the best candidate to do what you do because you have the experience. Or you also have that empathy, you're able to
mm,
connect on that deeper level.
yeah, yeah. And I really believe that too often, I see that with my clients. We think we're alone in a struggle. We're far from being alone. We're far from being alone. And that's part of the learning as a coach. I'll be very honest with you,
Mhm.
Thomas, is learning to show myself, learning to deep into my personal experience, my personal struggle, and share them and use them as a way to inspire, as a way to show a path that and then bring some tools and strategies that allow people just to transform, because it's people. I know that people relate to us more through our struggle and how we get out of our struggle than just bragging about everything that we've done,
Mhm.
right? And but that takes
Yeah.
courage on both sides. I'll
Yes.
be honest, it takes
Yes.
courage on both sides.
Bernadette, you are absolutely right. Because so for me personally, I'm a Civil War survivor, right? And for the longest time, I still hide that story,
Yeah.
right? I still hide it. I was hiding that part of myself from the world. But once I started to share my experiences and the obstacles that I went through, right? From moving from Liberia to Brownsville, Brooklyn, and facing adversity, then moving to Staten Island, it was liberating, right? And people started to really open up as well. They started to put down, the ego and share their stories. So
Yeah.
I totally understand. I totally understand. So now let's dive into coaching, right? I totally understand why you are a coach, but I want you to explain to our listeners why you decided to become a coach, especially a coach that focus on women empowerment.
It's thank you for asking that question, because it is when I think about women empowerment and really lead. I'm an advocate for leadership. I'm an advocate for empowerment, but even more so within the women's arena, because it's part of the diversity and inclusion. It's all about the inclusion and belonging. Is when we help specific portion of our population shine. There's so much talent. There's so much talent that is not showing up. And why? Because I face the challenges of climbing the corporate ladder. And, I've had some of the comments that I had and the experiences that I had. I said, oh my gosh, I wish they were not happening anymore. They do. They still do to this day. We still, why the women leaders empowerment? Because the more that we help them tap into their talent, the better it is. There's too often women, we think about, I'm not good enough. And I know it's not typically to women, but it is very much something, a language that we play with our game. My gosh, our inner game is so strong. And and I'm not good enough, or we keep comparing ourselves to others, and or we are not feeling that we can speak up. And again, it's not typical to women, but it's very true to them. Why helping women leaders? Because I believe more than ever, all around the world needs heart-based, purpose-driven leaders everywhere, in our families, our communities, in the business world. And one thing that women bring is they tend to be, I know we said that more emotional, true, but that's a good thing. We need to learn how to use those emotions and that heart. So, everything is about balance. And the more we use our mind and our heart, the better we are at everything that we do. So women, I do believe, have that gift of being able to do that. But they are, through outside circumstances or self limitation, imposed limitation, they are not allowing themselves to use those gifts and those talents. Okay. And because I'm a very critical thinking, rational person, but I'm also very emotional, and I understand the compassion. So I bring those two together, and that's where I know I excel at bringing out from the leaders.
All right, so this is perfect. This is perfect ways for us to segue towards your coaching style. So knowing how you like your structure, right, the mentality and like the structure you bring to your coaching, I want you to describe to us your coaching style, right? Are you a cheerleader, or are you, because you mentioned you're very emotional, right? So I want you to describe to us your coaching style. Like if I was to work with you, what type of how would you work with me? Like, what's your style like?
For me, that's really a very just powerful question, because to me, coaching is first of all, coaching is not about me. Coaching is about the person, the people, the teams, the organization who I work with. I see coaching like a partnership relationship. And what I mean by that is I will give you my all, always. But you've got to bring your all to get the most out of it. And to me, it's about trust first. We've got to trust each other, because when there's not that trust as a human being, not just from a working partnership, but as a human being, the chances of you showing yourself and your vulnerability is probably going to be small. And the more vulnerable you're going to be, the more open you're going to be, the more I'll be able to be of service to you. That's one thing. So trust, honesty, respect, compassion are key. But it's also about, yes, a little bit of cheerleading, because we all need that. We all need that support. We all need to be validated, to be reinforced that you're better than what you think you are. you're stronger than what you think you are. So definitely it's that support, and it's done through listening, through understanding, asking questions, but it's also providing a framework for accountability, because I do believe that people who want to need some kind of accountability, and that is a framework that needs to be set as well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So for those clients that are a bit timid, right? They have this hard shell, right? And they are a bit paranoid when it comes to opening it up. How do you deal with those clients in the beginning?
First of all, I have at the beginning, I just we really have what I call a discovery time, and it's
Okay.
really about discovering each other. So they understand. I have to say that the people who reach out to me, they have a pretty good idea of who I am,
Okay.
because they've heard of me, they've seen me. I mean, they see me, and in different ways. And I always say to them, you get what you see with me. That is just as simple as that. Because I believe that when you see, and when you can see who I am, and through my words, through what I convey,
Hmm.
you'll know whether or not we're a fit. And that's why I've had one person who came to me, and she said to me, and I was doing a big training, and at some point in time she asked me a question, and she said, I'm looking for a coach, and how do you know how to find the right coach? And I said to her, well, first ask yourself, is that person a person you want to emulate? Do you want to emulate their success? Because if you don't, it's probably not the right fit,
Mm.
because they're probably not aligning with your values and what really matters to you. Right? So that's one thing is values. It's, do you feel that that person has the energy and the believe in what they do? Do you believe that they can take you out of your comfort zone?
Mm.
Because coaching is about taking you out of your comfort zone. It's about really but it's being somebody who you believe can really be there for you on an emotional level, because that's important. It is against the balance of the heart and the mind, the
Hmm.
balance of the rational and the emotional. And that's what I believe. And I say, because if there is something that tells you that's not the right person, I guarantee you it's not the right person. Don't you and that's part of trusting ourselves. I really
There you
believe that.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. That's a big one right there. So you have to really trust yourself. You have to really feel it while you being in there having that initial discovery call. You have to not only listen, but you have to feel, right? You have to try to tap in here to see if
Exactly.
that's a good
And
fit.
just, and then, yes, if you want, look at, in terms of validation, look at what are the results, find out from who did they coach, what kind of result did they get. Just definitely look at that as well. But first of all is, do you believe in your heart that this is a person who can take you where you want to go?
That's a nugget right there. Bernadette, so now we're going to dive into storytelling time, right? So I want you to share with us a 2 to 3 minute story where you realize your coaching practice, your framework to get one of your clients from a negative situation to a positive situation and
Right.
success and beyond. Okay. I want
Right.
you to paint me that picture, put me through the situation. I want to live vicariously through you and your client.
Well, so and let me start to talk about one of my clients, for example, and that's a very recent conversation that I had with one of them.
Okay.
She during a coaching session, she came to me, and she started to share with me, all the victories that she had over the last 2-3 weeks, and she just opened up and her eyes lit up. She had a big smile on her face. I had a big smile on my face, and one of the big milestone victory that she was relating to me is that she found the courage that she never found before. She finally found on that day the courage to speak up and express our ideas and conviction in a meeting with senior leaders. And so it was quite an important meeting for her, an
Mhm.
important step.
Okay.
And And, and really the outcome of that few days later is she then became the lead in a very critical project in that organization,
Nice.
which she never did before. So for her, that was, oh my gosh, what's happening, right? And the effect has been just so fantastic because her confidence, her effectiveness, her performance as a whole, as a leader, as an individual, just skyrocketed. And it was just, and yes, she has her challenges and so on. I'm not saying that it's all, easy, but it just took her to a completely different level. And all of that started with a decision a few months ago when she said that she was determined to grow as a leader, even though she did not understand what that meant. She didn't understand. She was very uncomfortable. She was very scared, frankly. So we worked through that, and we really looked at what does it mean to her, for example, to be a leader of the team, a better leader and in the organization. So we really defined what success looked like for her. Right? Because everybody has a different definition.
Yeah.
What success looked like from her, but also what success was expected from her. Because that was within the organization. So we had to look not just at the inside, but at the outside as well.
Yeah.
And then we looked, okay, what was missing then? What are what was missing? What are the skills or the situation that maybe she wasn't handling properly before? What were the roadblocks, internal or external roadblocks? Because there's always both. It's never quite one. There's always both. And then we really design a plan, a specific plan with specific actions of how to literally tackle down those roadblocks. And we put that. So that was not something, that happens over just a few days. Some could, some took a bit longer because it depending of how long those roadblocks had been around.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we did. And then we had measurement, on a regular basis. We measured, for you to know that you're making progress, what would you want to see? How would that look like? So it was that, so what that success means to you, what is expected from you, what are the roadblocks, designing specific action plan, specific action that she believes she can take. Because if she could not believe she could take them, that action plan doesn't work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So we've had to look at that and then providing that support, which is where I come in, and that accountability, and then checking in. And really, in a nutshell, that's a simple process. Easier said than done, but that's really what it is. And what really was fantastic, Thomas, is at the end of it, as what you said, but everything that I've learned that I applied in my work has actually overflown outside of my work. It really just had so many impacts in my personal life, in the way that I interact in my community. And I say, I'm just blown away. And I said to her, what you're learning is life skills.
There you go.
Skills that have a professional impact and a personal impact, a community, but these are life skills. And that's, to me, what coaching is about, that it can really expand beyond your work.
Yes, indeed. And there's a saying that goes, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right, Thomas.
And the more I think about that saying and I assess habits, because I'm a huge advocate and student of human behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more I understand how true that saying is, how you do one thing is how you do everything, because everything has an influence on your actions, on your habits, on your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And all of that for us, it's, I really believe it's first is having the vision of what it could look like, finding the courage to take action, because it's not enough just to think about it. We've got to find the courage and we've got to act, because without action, nothing changes.
Exactly. You can talk, you want to talk, right? But you have to act.
Exactly. And even when we take action, is to be ready for new challenges coming our way, because they're coming. But the beauty with this is the more we grow, that's why I love coaching, and doing the work that I do. It's not coaching. It is really my mission is really to help people become their best self. so they can live their best life and best serve the world. That's why I do what I do. And but I know that in that process, we're going to face challenges. We're going to face, resistance. There's no doubt about it, because some will like, some won't.
But that's life, though. That's life.
And exactly. And if I may, I'd love to share one more story.
Go for it.
Is, I mentioned that I'm a deep introvert, and for almost 20 years, I refused to speak in front of people. A few years ago, I would never have accepted to be here with you. I mean, that's the bottom line. And about, 12 years ago, a coach and mentor of mine said to me, Bernadette, we've got to hear you. We've got to hear. And I said, no. And I refused. I finally accepted. And just to give you the setting, while I refused to speak, it was speaking for 3 minutes, Thomas. 3 minutes. It's not, very short time. It felt like a lifetime. 3 minutes on stage in Toronto. Now, on stage in front of 800 people. And I thought, what are you asking me to do? And this time I decided to do it. The reason why I decided to do it is I realized that what was at stake was much bigger than me. What was at stake if I still continue to say no, to grow, to break through my fears and my limitation, I will never be able to do what I believe needed to be done, which is to empower others. So I accepted it. My gosh, I will tell, that's another story. I will tell you this, but I did. And that was one of the most defining moments for the work that I do, because I realized that by putting myself out there for people to see me the way that they started to see me, it was just, giving birth in a way to a new Bernadette.
That's awesome, right there.
And that has been one of the most defining moments of the work that I've been doing, because I remember all the fears and limitation. And that's why I do what I do. When we give opportunity to people to shine and we work with them so they can shine, the limits they're not there. They just disappear.
Yes, indeed. And you were able to practice what you preach, right? Because if you hadn't gone past your limited belief and your fear, right?
Yeah.
And that huge hurdle, you have never been here right now. Because trust me, I can relate 100%, because I used to have a huge phobia of public speaking to the point where I used to shake. So I get it.
Yeah.
I totally understand. We're here.
And the thing is, we're not alone in that, right? We're not alone in that, in that emotion and all that, but we need to hear everybody. We want to hear everyone, because everyone's voice matters. Everyone has something to say that is important. And that's part of why we do what we do.
Absolutely right. Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
So, Bernadette, are you currently working on any new projects that you can share with us? Any new books? Any new programs? Like, talk to us.
Oh my gosh, yes. One thing, you're talking about growth and so on. One thing that literally just launched last month is the first online course that I've done, because so many times many people say, we want more of you, we want more. I say, there's just one of me. And so I put this online course, and it's really about finding the leader within. And this is really about empowering the leader that we have inside us, so that is foundation. So that I love. And the response has been just absolutely phenomenal. I have to say, just to see the comments, the feel, the learning that the women are finding through that course is just amazing. So that's one thing. But the big project that I'm working on right now is really, the setting the stage for what I call the success and development leadership for women, literally. And it's all about empowering the women leaders. And literally I have all the components, and now I'm just setting up the whole pathway. And and creating literally programs that allow to work on self-leadership, team leadership, organization influence and impact. And that is something that I'm extremely passionate about, because I know it's going just to create some wave into how things are going to happen. And it's going to allow women just to blossom and flourish and thrive frankly, in every aspect of their life. So.
That's awesome right there. So if someone were to inquire about your services or would like to hear more about your courses, right? Or even just to connect with you, where can they find you, Bernadette?
I'm going to give you one simple way, because I think that is, if you go to my website, and that is BernadetteMcBurnie.com, very simple. Then if you want to have a chat with me, you are able to book some time to chat with me right there and there. And I'll be more than happy to do that. If you want to read about the course, it's also there, and you're going to learn and hear more about who I am, what I do. And so in the work that I do with companies, in the work that I do with individuals, and how literally I work with empowering women leaders.
Awesome. Bernadette, do you mind spelling out the website for those who are listening right now? Do you mind?
No, absolutely. So it's, well, the www then dot BernadetteMcBurnie.com.
There you go, BernadetteMcBurnie.com. Awesome. Bernadette, listen, it has been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. You are amazing. You are glowing. I love your passion, right? So I'd definitely like to thank you for coming on today's episode of How May I Serve You? And to all of our listeners and viewers out there, I'd just like to thank them for lending us the ears and the eyeballs. And before you leave, Bernadette, I have one last question for you. And that is, how may I serve you?
Oh, first of all, already doing this with me, inviting me onto your show is one way that you're doing this, Thomas, because you are allowing me just to put my message out there to an audience that I don't have. So I think this is fabulous. What I love, I'm the same. I love your energy. I love your passion for what you do. I love the fact that you're very much you're a giver in how you look at connecting with people. And that, I believe, is part of it. So is anybody, any way that you feel that you could just continue to put my message out there, it's great. But myself, I will actually respond to the opposite, is how may I serve you? Because I really believe that together we become stronger. Together we become stronger, right? Together we are expanding the impact that we can have. So, and that's one thing that I would say to everybody is how may I serve you? How may I be of help to you? How may I support you? And the more we go with that abundance mindset, I say, you don't even know what's coming. You don't even know what's coming, right? So, it is, and I know I'm a fan of you, Thomas. So I definitely want to continue. I know we're going to connect more. So exactly, that's part of the seed that we're planting here.
Yes, indeed. And this was a great start from our discovery call to this podcast interview. The goal is to just keep in communication, because the more we connect, the more we can impact the world, right? Yeah. And as human beings, as creators, this is what we do, right?
Absolutely.
We are creators.
Absolutely. And one thing that you've asked me a few times today is why the focus on women leaders and all of that, and empowering women. I would say, we empower women with the support and the help of people like you, Thomas. It's because I would say we are not alone. We don't interact, on our own. It's not women on one side and men on the other side. Far from it. We need to be working together and support each other. That's how things happen.
Yes, indeed. We're social, right? We need each other to thrive.
Exactly.
Again, this is your host, Thomas Johnson. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it with someone that will benefit. And make sure to tune in for next week's episode. Take care, be blessed, and cheers. We're out.
Have a fabulous time, everybody.